Hey guys, Mighty Gazelle here, reviewing My Hero Academia Season 5. I've heard a lot of things over the last week or so. Some people saying this is the worst season we've ever had. I've heard other people saying it's their favorite. Where does my opinion lie on the topic? So to sit back, relax as I go through all of what Season 5 had to offer. I'm going to say my positives, my negatives. I'm going to compare it to the manga, how well was it adapted. Uh, so yeah, this is going to be a very casual video. I'm going to have a lot of visuals on the screen, not necessarily video, but pictures as I go throughout this. So yeah, let's just dive on in. Okay, so Season 5 of My Hero Academia adapted 3 arcs. We have a JTA, or Joint Training Arc, we have Agency Arc, and we have My Villain Academia. Now, those are the 3 arcs in the order that the anime presented them. I will get to why I say that order in a little bit, because there is a specific reason as to why that's important. But we start off with JTA. Now, JTA, when the manga was happening, a lot of people were not happy with JTA. You guys have to understand this. Uh, the chapters were relatively short, and a lot of people were just not feeling the training slash growth arc. Now, I'm not speaking about myself personally. I really enjoyed seeing Deku and the other students show their stuff and how much they've improved. But at the time, Horikoshi was getting a lot of flack from readers for how short the chapters were, and I think that's ridiculous because the content in JTA is actually really enjoyable to me. But how did that translate to the anime adaptation? Well, in my honest opinion, as someone who did enjoy JTA to begin with in the manga, uh, let's just say I thought JTA was thoroughly enjoyable. I thought the animation was crisp. I thought the way the episodes flowed was fantastic. Uh, Not saying every episode was amazing by any means, but if you averaged all of them out, I think the animation was so consistent and the music was great. The fights were awesome. And if you weren't entertained, I'm not really sure why you weren't entertained to see so many of these. Like, even if you don't like all these students, there's several ones I'm sure you do like, and you get to see them fight and more of them, their progression as characters. Um, so yeah, I personally, I thought JTA was amazing. They handled the Black Whip scene fantastically. That was one of my most anticipated moments of the entire season. And Black Whip's reveal was emotional. The music hit just right. The visuals with him talking to Banjo and seeing the other vestiges was amazing. Uh, as one of the tentpole moments of this season, they definitely handled it extremely well, and I could not be happier with how they did that. So as a whole, JTA, while there were some moments that weren't exactly necessarily the best, I think the Hawks Tokoyami segment kind of dragged a little bit. Um, as a whole, I have glowing remarks for JTA as an anime adaptation. I'd give it a 9 out of 10 for this arc. Again, I might be a little bit biased. I actually liked the source material a lot for JTA, probably more so than a lot of people, but I thought JTA was awesome. It was great. I really truly had a great time. Now next, we're going to talk about Agency Arc. Now the reason this is interesting is because in the manga, Agency Arc actually comes after My Villain Academia. Now, this caused quite a lot of controversy among the anime fans and manga readers, because it's the first time that the series has ever done something like this, where they take the order of something that Horikoshi did in the manga and flip it around for the sake of a different narrative in the anime. Now, this is a truly deep conversation on its own right, but I'm going to quickly say that at first I was very annoyed by the fact that they did this because it takes away from the mystery. Like, well, what I mean is, in Agency, they quickly allude that something happened in Deka City, right, involving Shigaraki, and then all of a sudden you're just put on hold as to what happens with that for about 4 or 5 episodes. And I don't really necessarily agree with this, But here's my suspicion. I think they did this because they didn't want to end the season with Agency Arc. Because Agency Arc is, to be honest, not exactly the most exciting arc out there. It's rather short. The fight at the end isn't anything truly spectacular. It's fine. Agency Arc is more of an emotional uh, dissection of the Todoroki family, as well as seeing some insight into Bakugo and Deku's growth under Endeavor's tutelage. And I can see why they didn't want to end the season on that note. That's kind of my suspicion as to why they did this. But we'll talk about that more when we talk about MVA. But Agency Arc as a whole, it's not super long. Like I said, it's only about 4 or 5 episodes in total, which I expected going into the season. It's only about 16, 17 chapters in the manga, I believe. Um, but yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Agency Arc in the manga. I will say I did enjoy it a little bit more in the anime. I feel like maybe it just flowed a little bit better and grabbed my attention a little bit more. I still love the Todoroki family dinner scene. It's very tense. There's a lot of just emotional trauma in the past of that family, and I think they really portrayed it well. And I truly think that that was one of the best moments of the season. I just thought it was really, really, really well handled. So in the manga, I'd give Agency Arc like a 6, maybe a 7, just outside of the fact that we had the great Todoroki family scene. But in the anime, I would argue that it flowed a little bit better. I think that the fact it was condensed and we saw it all in action and fluidity. The ending fight was definitely better in the anime. In the manga, I didn't really remember it too well, but at least in the anime, they had a great voice actor for both dub and sub for ending that really brought his character to a little bit more of a memorable status. And yeah, it was a great moment with Natsu and Endeavor on the street talking it out. So in the anime, I would give Agency Arc a 7. Definitely not one of my favorites, but I thought it was handled well. And for a short arc, I think it was totally fine. It was totally solid. And that leads us to My Villain Academia. Unfortunately, going into the season, the only issue people were worried about was censorship. Oh, how the time flies. If that was the only issue that actually arose during this arc. My Villain Academia is one of the most important arcs in the entire series of My Hero Academia. Anime onlys, I'm not sure if you'll understand the grasp of it just yet. You might have to wait another season or so to understand just how important this arc is. But Shigaraki is going to be a big player moving forward, and this arc not only sets up his backstory and what motivates him, but it also sets up the friends around him, the people that he calls allies. So where to begin with My Villain Academia? Let's just say that I do have issues with My Villain Academia, and there are issues that are holding it back from being a perfect arc. Because I think that what we did see in this anime adaptation was phenomenal. I thought Shigaraki's backstory was handled so perfectly. I was worried about censorship, and while we did get censorship in the origin story of Tenko, it was done extremely tastefully well, and it did not take away from what they wanted you to learn from his tragic backstory. Now, unfortunately, while Shigaraki is the most important thing to get done in this arc, and they did him extremely well, the people around Shigaraki were definitely hit or miss. Some were done really well, some were completely thrown to the wayside. Let's start with the ones that were done well, because I want to end this going on a little bit of a rant. So, the ones that were done well, I thought Toga's chapter/episode was done very well. I thought in the manga, I didn't really get a good handle of what her whole deal was as a character, and I was excited to see in the anime so I could help visualize and help me understand what her true motivations were. And not gonna lie, the anime did help in that regard. I thought the animation was fluid. I thought that her fight against Curious was really, really well handled. The animation was really good. Nothing was phenomenal. Nothing was 10 out of 10 during her stuff. But it really did help me get a feel for just what makes Toga tick as a character, and I do think they handled it very gracefully, and I thought it was well done. Twice. Sad Man's Parade was awesome. Not gonna lie, I watched it in sub and I thought it was really good. I watched it in dub, which is my preferred version, and this is more of a personal note. I thought it just elevated the episode even more because I have more of an attachment to the dub cast, and it like the emotion oozed out even more from Twice in the dub version, and I really do enjoy Sad Man's Parade adaptation. I thought it was really well handled. That unfortunately is where my glowing remarks of My Villain Academia end, because we have a one glaring issue in My Villain Academia, and that is the fact that Redestro, the main sort of obstacle for Shigaraki in this arc, was stripped away of everything that made him interesting in the manga. Now, anime onlys, please do yourself a favor, go back and read My Villain Academia in the manga, because you guys will notice something extremely different. Not only is Redestro a caring, emotional, happy, like there's so many emotions of Redestro you don't see in the anime. For instance, this is one I love to tell people, like why was this not in the anime? When Curious dies in the anime, you don't see any real reaction from Redestro. It just kind of, he brushes it off. In the manga, there's this beautiful scene where he lauds her dedication to the cause, and he cries. It's a beautiful scene where he's actually crying for his fallen comrade. And for whatever reason, that's just not in the anime. Why would you eliminate an aspect of his character that just makes him deeper and more relatable? There's also a Redestro commercial, specifically for Dead Rat, the company that he runs, which is barely referenced in the anime. Yes, Redestro runs a company that makes support gear, and there's this commercial where it shows him talking with the people, talking with various people he works with. And there's also a scene where there's this like mouse man that he tells Redestro he read the book, he wasn't impressed, and that gets on Redestro's nerves because this book, this ideology means so much to him that it makes him mad, and he understands this guy shouldn't work for him. And what does he do? He says, "Hey, do you have any kids? Do you have any family?" Like he asks all this before he ultimately kills him, and that shows that he not only cares. Like I truly believe if he said he had like a wife and kids and stuff, he probably wouldn't have killed him here. But yeah, he straight up this guy who works for him, who doesn't agree with the ideology of Destro specifically, because it's his book and his ideology. He kills him, and he doesn't take pleasure in it. He's saying it's for the cause of like his revolution. And all this is just a few examples of things that are just taken away from Redestro in the anime, and it makes me sad because there's a glaring elephant in the room of this season, and it is the filler episode, the beach episode, as some people call it, with Uraka and Froppy as they go help Selkie on another oceanside adventure. I originally wasn't really going to talk about this in the review, but I'm going to go ahead and just say, like, before this season, I have been a huge advocate for the filler episodes. I thought the first Froppy one was great. That the first filler we ever got. I really, truly enjoyed it. The one with the IQ girl in the license arc against Momo, I thought that was super enjoyable, and it didn't take away from the arc itself. It felt like it flowed naturally in it. I loved Save the World with Love. I understand that was a straight up movie promotion episode, but it was super fun, and it didn't really detract from things that were going on in the season once again. This season, though, not only was this not really related at all to the main plotline of the story, it was in a sense that it was Uraka and whatnot on her hero training missions, but the tie-in for the movie, which is the purpose of why this episode was made, barely has 10 seconds of the villain of the movie at the end talking about the drugs. And okay, you couldn't put that in like anywhere else. So I have a firm belief slash theory that if this episode didn't exist, we would have all the time we would need to include those Redestro spots, that commercial, various other things into My Villain Academia. And not only did Redestro get the short end of the stick, there's someone who didn't even get a stick at all, and his name is Spinner. Poor Spinner. Spinner, anime onlys probably think he's the lamest character ever, and I don't blame you. Manga readers know that Spinner actually has a lot more to offer to the group than just being the guy to offer them insurance for 15%. You know, he's not the Geico guy. Spinner is the emotional rock of the team. He is supposed to be the narrator for this entire My Villain Academia. From him observing Shigaraki grow from a child with a tantrum to the end when he makes a beautiful horizon. All of Spinner's lines were basically cut. The scene at the beginning with them with the cult that they take out for money, it's all gone. And again, please, if you're an anime only, go back and read My Villain Academia. You're going to see a large difference in just how the characters are presented. Thankfully, they got Shigaraki right. Shigaraki was the most important thing going into this that they had to get right, and they did. Everything involving Shigaraki to me was 10 out of 10. So in that aspect, I thought the arc was successful. However, they used Redestro to the bare minimum. They used him nothing more as an obstacle, and poor Spinner, who I think just they deemed to be the least interesting of all the league, just got all of his scenes basically cut, all of his dialogue. And it's a shame. So as a whole, I would give My Villain Academia, it could have been a 10. The pieces were there for it to be a 10. The animation was spectacular for the Redestro fight, as well as Shigaraki's backstory. It should have been a 10, but the cut content and the fact that Redestro was stripped away of so much of what makes him interesting, I'm bumping it down to an 8. I still really enjoyed the arc, but the fact that they took away so much of the heart and the personality of many things that the arc had to offer, it's going to be a solid 8 instead of what could have been a masterful 10. And that does it for my review of Season 5 of My Hero Academia. JTA, I give a 9, Agency Arc, a 7, and My Villain Academia, an 8. And if you average them out, roughly, it comes out to an 8. Not that you should weigh Agency Arc too much, because, again, it's shorter and not quite as impactful in the series, although there's definitely things to take away from that. The two meatiest ones were a 9 and an 8, so you can call it an 8 or slightly above an 8 in my opinion. I think this season has gotten way too much flack. I've seen people saying it's the worst season ever. I do not agree with this. If I had to rank the seasons, just off the top of my head, I would go Season 2 is still the GOAT. Season 2 had the best adaptation of the manga, first of all, and it felt so fluid. It felt so effortless in the way it was telling its story, and it was just beautiful. It's, to me, the perfect season. And then after that, I'll put Season 3. Season 3 was phenomenal. Say what you will about License Arc. While the arc itself isn't interesting, really, truly, it was adapted extremely well, and the animation was still great. So Season 3 is right after that. And then at number 3, it'd be a tie between Season 5 and 1. It's hard to rank 1 because it's shorter, the budget was different and stuff. But there's still a lot of heart to Season 1, and I think Season 1 is slept on a lot just because it's the oldest, the shortest, the least amount of fights, I guess you could say, at least in terms of like huge fights. But yeah, I really do have a soft spot for Season 1. I'd put that right there with Season 5. I thought Season 5 was honestly really enjoyable. My complaints with MVA aside, I think the rearrangement was not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. It's more of an annoyance, but it was fine. So yeah, I put those two vying for number for the third spot. It's kind of hard to say for sure. That might vary one way or another. Like 5 could be higher than 1 could be higher than 5, depending on what day you ask me. And then at the bottom, I would still have season 4. I thought season 4 just had the most inconsistent animation. Now, if I recall correctly, I think season 4 was also when like dub actors and stuff had to work from home. So there's like a lot of things going on with because 2020 was a wild year, and I don't know if that impacted like the season or whatnot. But I'm also not a huge Overhaul fan. Just I don't know, like season 4 had like some of my favorite episodes ever. Kirishima versus Rappa is a top 3 episode, and the Culture Festival was also one of my all-time favorites. But those two aside, the whole season just didn't vibe with me quite as much. I still enjoyed it. I would give that season like a 7, which is still good. 7's definitely still good. But that to me, that's the low point of the anime. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed my review. Hopefully it was in-depth enough. Hopefully you guys were entertained. What would you guys give the season? Let me know down below. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. It's crazy that season 5 flew by as quick as it did. Season 6 is gonna be nuts, okay? Telling you now, gonna be nuts, gonna be crazy. And I hope you guys stay tuned for my reactions to that whenever that comes out. And also stay tuned for my third The World Heroes Mission movie review. I understand it's been out forever in Japan, but America, we're finally getting it this next month. And I've already pre-ordered tickets to see it on the opening day. So I'll have a review for that. And until then, I'll just keep reviewing the manga as it comes out every Friday. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, this has been Mighty Gazelle, hoping you all have a mighty day. See you guys.